Good evening, everyone. I'm very excited to introduce today's guest, but he's really not someone that needs an introduction in the hobby community. Nolan is the man, the myth, the legend behind EliteCo3. He is the OG hobby YouTube creator with over 1,500 videos going back more than 10 years. Dozens of collectors and some of your favorite YouTube channels credit Nolan with inspiring them to bring their collecting online. His content and delivery style sets the standard for PSA and SGC videos, and his sales recap videos can best be described as awe-inspiring. A man with years of hobby knowledge who really needs no introduction. Nolan, welcome to Sports Card Academy. Thanks for coming on tonight.
Yeah, man. Thanks a lot for having me on, Cardi. Thanks for the introduction. You did have me about to blush a little bit.
Yeah. I mean, it's very, very well deserved. So why don't we kick tonight's conversation off with just a little bit of background about you, about EliteCo3, the YouTube channel, Cardboard Futures, and introduce yourself to people that might not have seen your channel.
Okay, my name is Nolan. I've been in the hobby for as long as I can remember. I've told the story about back in like 1988, 89, getting my first packs. I think the first pack I opened was 89 or 1990 Don Ross. Ever since then, I've been hooked. There's a lot of people that, take a break from the hobby, leave for 5 or 10 years. I've never taken a break. So I've been in it the whole time through the whole 90s, breaking 98 Bowman Chrome when it came out. So I've been doing it a long time. I've seen a lot of trends. Things have gotten kind of wild lately here the last, 5 months. But the channel, so when I first made a video on YouTube, this was about 10 years ago, I thought it was kind of, at the time, there weren't a ton of people making videos on just sports cards. Most of the videos were like box breaks, but box breaking wasn't like it's not like it is today. It was small back then, and there were a few channels, and there were a handful of sports card channels. So when I first made a video, I was thinking, God, this is kind of weird. Just like sitting here, it was kind of odd because I had like a Skype phone camera, one of those cheap Skype things, and I was I can't remember the name of it, but I was making videos and the quality was terrible, but it just stuck. I started making it and it was fun, and I was getting some comments, and it probably took me a year or two to get up to like 200 subscribers. So I mean, for a while I had 100. I didn't really care because I don't do it for the subscribers. I just do it for the love of the hobby. So that's why in my videos you won't hear me begging for subscribers and likes and comments. I'm not into that. If you watch the videos and want to comment, cool, and I'll definitely try to respond to as many as I can. But I'm not begging for subscribers or likes. I think I have 7,000 subscribers now, which is fine. I mean, if I have more, that's good. If I have less, that's cool too. Doesn't really matter.
I mean, if we pull the curtain back, what is it? $20, $50 a month in ad revenue that you can get. It's not life-changing stuff.
No, it's not. So I actually took off all the ads on my videos too, so I can have the intro that I like, which is a Deftones song. But that's beside the point. When I take that off, if I take that off, I can monetize. But if I have it on, I can't. So I just keep it on because I don't care. So that's on there. My name actually comes from Donruss Elite Football. So,
interesting.
Back in the early 2000s, I always liked, football elite, like Elite 2004 with like Fitz and Big Ben and stuff. So I always liked that product. So I just had to come up with a name. So I came up with Elite, and the Co was just short for company, and 3. I don't know why I have 3, but that's just my name, and it stuck for so long that it's kind of it's my name. So. I'm not gonna it now.
It becomes synonymous with who you are. When I was first starting my channel, I was like, I'm going to be ripping all these packs. My name's Chris, Card Ripper C, Card Ripper X. That sounds so badass.
Yeah.
And then someone was like, nah, dude, like do a play on like Cardi-B, Cardi-C, like baseball cards. Ha ha ha. And now like I got people.
That's what that is. Okay.
Yeah. So now I got people referring to me as Cardi or Chris out in the community, and you just got to embrace it.
Yeah, totally.
You had mentioned this is the craziest that you've ever seen in the market. You've never seen anything like it. If you had to sort of compare it to an era, is there anything that is even remotely close to what we're seeing in the market for sports cards, both on the wax side and the single side right now?
No, it's not comparable to anything I've seen. Not even close. I mean, tomorrow Top Scrum Hobby comes out, and I think Blowout has them at $300 a box. Now, the last 10 years or so, Top Scrum Baseball comes out under $100, so it's tripled at least, you know, already just for a hobby box. It's getting expensive. I'm not gonna say it's pricing everybody out, 'cause it seems like everybody's just pushing more money into the market. And I don't know if there's going to be an end to it, but you know, there's always cards that spike in the hobby, and I've seen it the last 20 years, but not like this. You know, back in 2005, 2006, Larry Johnson autos were going for over $400, which is crazy. And you know, they're worth $5 or $10 now. So there's always been spikes like that, but this spike is across like the whole hobby. Like you see a player have a good game, and then you get the investment channels pumping top
Yeah.
five cards to buy, and that's usually when I take the opposite advice of that. But it's just it's across the whole hobby. But to me, this is just me thinking about why people are like taking the investment outlet to sports cards, which I think they are a good investment. I'm just not gonna be that type of channel. I think people like to watch sports. Obviously, they think cards are cool. A lot of people had cards as kids. Now I put those two things together: investing, cards, watching the games, tracking the prices, kind of like the stock market. You can be so involved in it as opposed to like buying Apple stock, or I don't know, buying a stock and just sitting and waiting. It's so much. You can be so much more involved, and people have seen that you can actually make a pretty good return on your money. So I think a lot of people have pushed some money into the sports card market that hadn't in the last couple of years. So I think that's where we're getting a lot of the money.
Yeah, and I think to piggyback back off that a little bit, if we compare it to something like DFS, the majority of people that are playing DFS are going to pop open a web browser. They're going to search DFS plays for whatever day, and then they'll buy into arguments that they think are solid, and they aren't going to go out and do their own research and their own advice. Why? Because we have very short attention spans, and it's easy to buy into something that sounds convincing. So I think that's why so many of these like buy these cards now are getting so much traction, because they come up with convincing arguments. But at the end of the day, you don't know what everyone's motives are. It might be a pump and dump. It might just be, I want to get more eyes on my channel. Here's some clickbait. But I think it's important to approach it with your own point of view and with your own sort of research and knowledge, instead of just blindly dropping hundreds of dollars on the next thing.
Yeah, totally. Like the way I see it, you know, if the channel has a ton of subscribers and viewers, that's cool. But the most subscribers and viewers doesn't mean it's the best. This can be, go to like music. I mean, who are the most popular artists? Those aren't the best artists. You know, the most popular is not the best, because that's where all the sheep herd to the most popular. You know, that makes sense.
Yep. Yeah, for sure.
So that's kind of how I see it.
So let's shift the conversation a little bit over to how you build your knowledge base up, because I know just looking at your eBay store, watching your videos, you cast a pretty broad net across football, baseball, hockey, basketball, and to be honest, there's not a lot of people, dealers, YouTube content creators out there that are comfortable or have the expertise to operate in all four of the major sports markets. Can you talk a little bit about what you enjoy buying and selling the most, and sort of how you build a background up in those sports to get to a point where you don't mind dropping $5,000-$10,000 on, well, maybe that's inflated, but a bunch of money on singles in all these different sports?
You know, it's just kind of I would start slow. You know, I got into vintage about 5 or 6 years ago, and it's, I took a lump. I took it the hard way during 2016. I bought a Pete Rose rookie PSA 8, and people were pumping the market, and I didn't know that. So I think I paid like 12,000 for it, and I sold it a couple weeks ago. I held it that long for like 6,000. So
Wow.
don't get too cocky, because I was just getting too ahead of myself, So do your market research. It honestly just takes time. I mean, year in and year out, seeing products, seeing players, seeing fads, seeing how players fizzle out, and you'll kind of see a player that kind of reminds you of something you've seen before, so you might not buy into that product. But that's kind of the way I look at it. I don't have any specific pricing tools where I'm tracking data trends every day. I don't do it that way.
Very old school, go by your gut type thing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The whole time I've been doing this, I've always looked at this as a hobby, but I've also looked at it as definitely an investment. You don't want to buy junk. So back, 10 years ago, I was thinking of players to buy, right? So back then, a lot of the players that were big back then are still big, like Brady and Breeze, right?
Yeah.
But their cards hadn't jumped up yet to what they are now, but they were still somewhat affordable, and you knew these guys were going to continue to compile. So picking up some of their big rookies, like their contenders and lower print stuff, just made sense. So basically, just buy cards now that you think will be worth more in the future, not in a month or 2 months.
Yeah, it's funny, and it's tough looking back at prior years. I mean, you look at Chris Bryant, Bryce Harper, or if you want to get even more ugly about it, like Jabari Parker, Andrew Wiggins. I can only imagine the amount of money that was being pumped, or if they had an equivalent today, what money's being pumped into those guys. That 2-3 years from now, you're going to be able to get out of like a $5 or $10 auto bin. So is there any way or anything you do to protect yourself against those types of players? Sort of, I don't know whether it's protecting against the short term, lowering your exposure against those guys, and focusing on the guys you mentioned, Brady, Breeze, Rivers.
Yeah, I mean, it sounds boring and dull, but that's what works. You buy the players that are going to be established Hall of Famers. I mean, I love Acuna and Soto, and I have a lot of Acuna and Soto, but I would, if you ask me who I would buy, Acuna or Soto, and spend 30,000 on, I'd say I'll go with Ichiro and Pujols.
Yeah,
I won't go Acuna and Soto, and it's not like Acuna and Soto may be better in the long term. I don't know that, but I know it's safer to go with Pujols and Ichiro. Not as fun, not as flashy, but it's safer, and it's probably going to work.
Well, I think the other thing there too to bring up is print run. If you look at like 2001 Topps Chrome for Pujols and Ichiro, their PSA 10s are a fraction of what like Soto and Acuna have out there. So if you're just comparing the player, yeah, it's just another factor to consider. And I think people can really get caught up in like the guys now, the hype now.
Yeah, because it is fun to watch current players, and I know Pujols is still playing.
Yeah,
kind of at the end, but it's cool to buy and track the players now and watch current players, which is fun. It's not all about the guys that are kind of at the end or retired, but that's just kind of the safer play. To make.
Now I want to focus on one card in particular, or a group of cards that you feel like backwards and frontwards, whether that's the 89 Donruss Ken Griffey or the Aaron Rodgers rookie. How does knowing that card like the back of your hand enable you to be successful buying and selling that card out in the marketplace?
To me, it helps me when I'm like, the way I get a lot of my PSA 10s you see from the older stuff is out of packs. I actually open the old boxes up, and after a while doing it, you develop an eye for it, and you can kind of tell if this card has any chance at a 10, because the line between 9s and 10s, people talk about this a lot, but it's very thin, but the price difference is very wide. So that's something to consider with these older cards. But like, I've seen so many copies of the Donruss Griffey 89 that I just kind of know when it comes from a pack, I know pretty much what the grade's going to be. Now, if you send it to PSA, it's going to be a 9 because
Yeah.
they will trickle out of 10 every now and then, but that pop's pretty tight right now. So those all go to SGC right now.
Now, if someone's just getting into grading, what do you think the best advice for them would be?
Best advice for grading would be let me think of some tips. Okay, this is a good one because everybody's obsessed with 10s, right? 9s can be good too. Like a lot of cards I send in, I don't have any expectation of a 10. Now PSA and SGC make mistakes and sometimes give 10s on cards they shouldn't, but that's part of the air of being human and making mistakes. You know, when I look up cards over, I make mistakes, miss things here and there. But I would say the lost art or the lack of love for a PSA 9. And I'm not talking about like ultra modern. I'm talking like early 2000s cards, like Frank Gore rookies, Phillip Rivers rookies, Peyton Manning rookies. You know, everybody thinks you have to have a 10. But I mean, I can get a 9 and you can do really well with just a 9. 8s, you can even, you know, you can sell for a little more than raw, but 9s can kill it. So that's one thing I would consider. You don't have to have a 10 on everything. It helps to have it in the holder. That's what I've seen. And put CBF after your listing. That helps. I'm just kidding. That's help, bro.
Yeah. I was gonna say, Eric, those back pages, PSA 9, just fine. I really think that in the market right now, you're just seeing PSA 10s price so many people out that they're going to be forced into PSA 9s. And I mean, you're starting to see a little climb on those cards anyway. But just to get back to your first point, you're submitting cards that you know probably have a very remote chance of gemming. I think that's important for people to know and to not be disappointed when they get an order back that has some 9s in it.
I call it the wine 9 videos where people whine over their 9s. Those are all over YouTube. When I start watching those, I just click off it. I'm like, okay, don't want to watch that anymore.
Yeah. I also think what you do in your process, listing out the cards, writing out what you think it's going to be, is something that not enough people do, because the only way you're going to improve, you're going to have a better eye for the card, is by essentially training yourself and reflecting back on things you might have missed. Do you ever, or at this point, is your grading knowledge so deep that you don't need to do this, but like have a graded version of the card in hand and you compare it against that? See, all right, here's centering.
Every now and then I will, but not very often. I've looked at so many cards. I've probably looked at more cards than a lot of the PSA graders. So I've been doing it so long that you just kind of, I've got some things I do when I'm looking over a card that most people don't do, like tilting it and stuff and pushing it in and out. I'll have to show you sometime. It's kind of the thing you can do to find all the little defects that could be on the card, because I kind of know PSA hates stuff on the surface. So you have a little surface scratch or like an indentation, it's going to be like a 7.75. You know, you just got to kind of know what they're looking for, and it's just they don't have a lot of time to look at the card. They have probably 30 seconds, so they're doing an estimation. I mean, they're doing their best, and I'm giving out my best, you know, giving cards out that I think are going to do well. It's not a perfect science, but for the most part, it's positive, you know.
Yeah. On grading, I know fairly recently you made a big shift towards SGC, and since I first reached out, the market has changed. Well, the SGC love has gone away a little bit with some of their recent announcements. But can you talk a little bit about difference of PSA versus SGC and sort of where you see them for your buying and selling, and sort of what roles they fit?
Definitely, I shifted the way I send cards out when PSA increased the price to $12 for the ultra modern. I'm not going to send like a Jordan Alvarez base rookie, a $5 card out and pay $12. I'll send it to SGC and get the much lower rate. So cards like that all go to SGC now, which, you know, of course, the resale won't be as high, but I think in the long run, these cards are going to start coming back faster. I think SGC's putting in the time and adding employees and training them. And I actually like what their CEO, Peter, said about not just throwing anybody out there to grade the cards. Like, they want to have people that actually know the cards. So, I mean, I think that's pretty encouraging as a submitter. And, you know, SGC's good. You know, I like PSA too. I like both. I'm not going to pick one or say trash the other one. They both do good for certain cards. I think SGC grades vintage much better, much more consistent. I think they do better with the 80s junk wax. I think they look at the cards closer. I think PSA grades the ultra modern a little better. I think they have more experience with that. I think both are good options. We don't need to get into Beckett, but you know I feel about that. But that's just me. I know it upsets people that I don't like Beckett sometimes on the channel, but I just don't like them. So yeah, that's kind of what to say on that.
Yeah, I think it's important for viewers out there to just understand that each of these grading companies serve a different purpose. At the end of the day, they're encapsulating cards and they're putting a grade on them that they believe is accurate. But if you can, I don't want to say game the system, but if you can be conscious about which cards you're sending to who, it can really pay dividends on the back end. If you're getting an SGC 10 versus a PSA 9 on a card, it can be the difference of a couple dollars, but you spread that across a couple hundred or a couple thousand cards. And
lately I've been looking over cards, and when I think it's a tweener, a true tweener, it could be a 9 or a 10. It usually goes to SGC because I think it'll get a 9.5. And it happens pretty often on the sheet. I'll write down the grade I think it is, and it matches up a lot. So
yeah,
I think tweeners are good for SGC. I think a lot of big, shiny refractors I like to send to PSA. I think they look better in that older baseball cards look way better in SGC. That black, it's like that slab was just made for old baseball cards.
And it's a lot different when you have an SGC slab in your hand for the first time. I was awestruck at like how heavy the slab was compared to PSA, and it just
definitely heavier, a little
bit. What'd you say?
Little taller, a little heavier.
Yep.
Not as heavy as Beckett, but
yeah, it's heavy, but it's more of like a high quality material rather than clunky.
Yeah, totally. Beckett is clunky.
Yeah. Switching topics a little bit though. If someone's in a market, say they're a giant basketball fan, they've started buying, selling basketball cards. They know the market for Prism rookies and Prism silvers, but they want to branch out. They really enjoy hockey, but they don't really know shit about the market. How would you suggest that someone goes about sort of learning a different sport in terms of the sports card market? Is there anything from the other sport that they can carry over?
I think hockey's different than the other sports. I don't think it has as strong a following, and all the other three sports, you'll see pretty dramatic increases in wax prices. You know, if you look at 2018 products, they've all jumped. 2019 jumped for all sports. Hockey hasn't really jumped much. I don't think they have the strong push or following. So if you're going in it like looking to invest, I mean, yeah, there's opportunities, but I don't think it's as volatile as the other sports. It's just it's more like stagnant. It's an awesome sport. I love watching it, and I definitely love the cards. I just think hockey is a sport that it could get bigger. You know, I think soccer is getting pretty big now, but I think hockey's going to need a push to get going here. But they make beautiful cards, and it's a strong market. It's not like the other three right now, which is okay. It doesn't need to be, you know.
Yeah. Do you ever try to match products up across sports? Like, do you ever look at something in basketball and say, oh, this is the equivalent of a first Bowman Chrome if you're trying to speak basketball to a baseball guy?
No, I don't really do that too often.
Okay.
It's
Okay.
just they're just different than me. But
Gotcha.
I get what you're saying though.
Yeah, I just wasn't sure if there was any key between the sports that someone could start to sort of learn a new sport based on knowledge they already have, and not start from square one when they were going into that new sport.
Yeah.
Switching gears up a little bit, we're going to talk about cultivating relationships and building a recognizable brand. So, what do you think is the importance of relationships in the hobby today, both from a buying and selling standpoint, but also for in just the enjoyment of the hobby? You had mentioned at the beginning of the interview that you're really just putting videos out on your Skype phone for the love
Actually, it was a
collecting.
flip phone. That's what it was called, flip phone.
Flip phone.
Yeah. Same thing.
So I think this question goes back a long time, but I'm eager to hear what you have to say about sort of where relationships fall into both the buying and selling and enjoyment side of the hobby for you.
Yeah. For the first 2 or 3 years on YouTube, I didn't really have any relationships outside of YouTube. There were, it was a lot smaller back then, and a lot of less people commented on the videos. It was just different. But around 2014, 2015, I started to develop some relationships with other collectors. And I think 2015 or 2014, I met up with some guys, at the hotel like we did last year. And we had some drinks and talked sports cards. And that's when I first kind of saw that aspect of the hobby, which is, I
Yeah.
think, the best part of the hobby is interacting and sharing ideas with other like-minded collectors. And yeah, now today I've got, I don't know, 15, 20 people in my phone that I'll text about cards or sales or stuff like that. So it's just cool. I call them my card friends, but they're just
Yeah.
in my phone, and I'll text the card out or text an idea on a product and wait to hear back. But yeah, I think like a lot of people have said, the people that you share the hobby with kind of make it a lot more enjoyable and worthwhile. I think if you didn't share it with anybody, it could still be fun, but
Yeah.
it's a lot better when you can share stuff with other people.
Well, you got your card friends and you got your real life friends, right? And I don't know if you're ever in this situation, but my wife is like, "Wait a minute, you're talking to someone you met on YouTube, and you gave out our phone number, and
Yeah,
they're sending you stuff through the mail. Like, what's going on with that?" It's tough to explain to
yeah,
someone that's outside of the community, sort of what it's like.
yeah. It's kind of like my non-card friends will they kind of know that I'm into this pretty deep now, and they
Yeah,
kind of they see some of the posts online and stuff, and they kind of know this is what I do. But for people that don't know me that well, will ask like baseball cards. They still sell those. I'm like, if you saw some of these prices, you would probably believe they're still selling these. So
mm-hmm.
that's kind of how it is. But I think the hobby is getting more mainstream. If that makes sense.
Yeah.
Random people are picking it up.
I think things like the LeBron Upper Deck Exquisite RPA selling for 1.8 million, and like the Dr. Fauci Tops card getting picked up by CNN
Yeah.
and Times and stuff. I can't tell you how many people, non-hobby related, were texting me that article, and they were like, "Yo, Chris, did you pick up that card?" Uh, but I think it just goes to it's it's less of like a stigma or less of a faux pas to be in the hobby as more of those mainstream channels pick them up. Um,
here's
to,
here's something else I'll say about the hobby. Go with your gut and trust yourself. Because I know like 10 or 12 years ago, I was buying these expensive like Aaron Rodgers SP Authentic patch cards for a couple $1,000s, and people would I remember my family would be like, "Why do you spend all that money on those cards? They're gonna be not they're gonna be worthless, but it doesn't make sense to me." You kind of get questioned, when you pay
yeah,
that much for a sports card, and back then it was different. But go with your gut. If you think it's gonna work out, just go with it. Don't worry about what others people think about you.
That's great advice. On the relationships, you said you got your 15, 20 card friends in the phone now. How often do you consult them before making a big purchase?
Every now and then, if it's something big, I'll just kind of bounce the idea off them. I talked to Filmington a lot lately, and then Eric, those back pages. So I think he's one of the most valuable members in the hobby. He has the right. He has an attitude that I like about the hobby.
He's definitely the hobby oracle.
Yeah, he's got the knowledge, so I like watching his channel.
It's his content is very positive and it's a breath of fresh air. I feel like the whole community is, for the most part. Just talking to my wife, she was looking at comments on one of my channel and she goes, "Oh my God, this is all so wholesome. Like, no one's saying anything negative. All the shit I watch, it's just like streams of negative comments."
Yeah.
And Eric's a great example of just the positivity in the hobby and the good that it can bring.
Totally.
All right. Making bold plays. When you're sort of a small fish in a big pond and you want to jump up, say you've never bought or sold a card over $500 or $1,000, I think there's often a mental block that people have overcoming. Like you said, $12,000 is a lot of money to spend on an Aaron Rodgers RPA.
It was like 2,000. So
2,000. Sorry,
like 2,000 back then is like 12,000 now.
Yeah,
the way things are going. But yeah.
So what advice would you give to someone that wants to sort of step it up? Maybe they're sitting on a bunch of money in their collection and they want to start cashing that out to level up what they have in their PC, but they're skittish about selling $1,000, $1,500 card on eBay.
They're worried about selling it. Why though?
We're seeing, I mean, with Topps Project 2020, there could be returns, there could be scams, there could be credit card chargebacks. They don't know the business side of things. They're worried about tax implications. I guess there's a lot that goes into it beyond just, hey, I'm going to list this card, I'm going to get the money, I'm going to put it into something else. So I don't know if you have any advice for those types of people that are willing to sort of step up to the big leagues.
Yeah, the one thing I would say you could do is filter the people that could buy your stuff. Maybe set like somebody with under 1,000 feedback can't buy, or 500 or something like that. That's the only thing I could say to help you with that, because as people know, a lot of the times when you have the scammers, they're like under 50 feedback. They're all over eBay, shilling auctions and doing all that nonsense. So that's the only thing I could say really is filter and try to accept payment through PayPal. I think that would help. I don't know about the credit card chargeback thing.
I was going to say the reason that I brought it up and was a little sensitive, I had actually sold an Ermsey Trout Project 2020 card over a Memorial Day weekend, $1,700 to someone through a Facebook group who 40 days later said there was a scratch on the case and tried to return it.
When it dropped in value, right?
Yeah, it was at $600 at that time. I ended up winning the PayPal case, and then a week later, he opened up a credit card chargeback and said it was a fraudulent transaction. Went through the process again, and ended up winning the case, and the $1,700 is back in my account. But to someone that had never sold a card over $300 or $400 before, having that amount of money tied up, it was tough, man. Like,
yeah, totally.
I was real lucky that I didn't get that windfall on day one and go out and buy a big PC card, because that $1,700 is coming out of my personal checking account. And
Yeah.
someone that's trying to spend maybe a couple $100 a month on cards, that's a big hit.
Okay, so this is what I'm going to say about that. I think a problem with that is people in this hobby are unable to accept losses. They're unable to accept defeat. You know, when they made a bad buy, you have to suck it up and go to the next one. Um, you can't live your life like that. Like
Mm-hmm.
that's just being a scoundrel doing that stuff. So it's kind of like the people that they can't accept a PSA 9. They have to have a 10 or they've been defeated. You know. You nines aren't defeat. If a card goes down, it's not defeat. You know, go to the next one. You can't treat other people like that. So that's all I'll say about that.
Yeah, I mean, you can look at other sort of high risk, high reward. If you're trading options on Robinhood, if you lose your shirt on options, you can't put a credit card charge back in. That money's
Yeah,
gone. Um,
yeah. I've had some bad trades in commodities in my life. I can't go and get it back. Do a chargeback on my commodity trade. You just accept the loss and move to the next one.
mhm. And I think that's a good lesson at this point too. That people are going to learn sooner or later. The sky high historic prices aren't going to last forever. And there's a lot of money coming in, and people are going to take a hit sooner rather than later. So it's like you just got to stay in your lane, be comfortable investing or putting money in that is not going to go into a retirement fund, or it's not going to keep the roof over the top of your head, and just treat it like a hobby. And if you're treating it like a business, then treat it like a business and be risk adverse and don't go all in on one player or I don't know. I think you just need to be very, very mindful and very conscious of how you approach it.
Totally, that makes sense. Don't treat people like that. That's not
Yeah.
cool. I'm fortunate enough that I think because I've developed enough of a standing on maybe it's YouTube and eBay. The store's been built up that I don't get a lot of that, and I don't know. I'm happy I don't because I saw a lot of high end hobby boxes. Then I don't get people like opening the box, having a bad box, and trying to return it because that's not cool. So but I do know that happens. So it's not. It's just people can't take losses. It's
Yeah.
very childish.
Agreed. 100%. A quick pause. Who do you think is has the best chance of maintaining the current height? Bull, Michael Porter Jr., Kyle Lewis,
Jeez. Porter
or
Jr. I
none of
guess.
the above?
I'd say Porter Jr., but if you really ask me, I'd say none.
Yeah.
I don't
Okay.
like Kyle Lewis because he's like 26, 25 already, and he hasn't compiled any stats. So for the long
Mm-hmm.
term, I don't like him.
It's
But
just
for a
like
couple of years, he might be good. But he wouldn't be somebody I'd buy.
it's like Dominic Kubalik in hockey. He's
Uh,
putting up great
yeah,
stats, but he's a 25, 26-year-old rookie.
yeah, exactly. Got to have the guys that come in young are the guys that I like to go after because the longer you're in the league, the longer you
Mm-hmm.
compile, which equals a greater chance of Hall of Fame, which equals hobby prestige, and that's kind of what it's about.
Yeah, for sure.
If you're in it for the long term.
Can you talk a little bit about your branding and evolution on the channel over the years? Because I know if you go way back, you're doing pick 'em plays, bets. You're covering a lot of football, and it seems like you've really found your niche with PSA and SGC returns and um, the cardboard future sales, but it probably took a long time for you to get there. So how did you sort of go through that journey to discover like where you fit?
Yeah, I think some of my first videos were I think it was like some Beckett orders back in 2010, and those were fun. And then I kind of dabbled in some other things, different video ideas. It didn't really stick. I did some whiteboard videos, which I thought were good, although the audio was terrible. They were still good. I thought they were pretty good. And then now it's just kind of, lately the videos have been very cut and dry. Like I haven't been
Mm-hmm.
doing any box breaks. I do all that. I do that off camera, just the stuff I break. But it's just kind of, I did just find the stuff that people like, that I enjoy and people enjoy, and I've just kind of stuck with that pattern, you know. SGC order, PSA. We'll do some cardboard futures sales, then we'll bring back a mail bin every now and then because people get kind of, they like those mail bins. So
Yeah.
I'm gonna try to do one per month or one every 6 weeks or so, because they seem to be pretty. People seem to want those.
So if I'm hearing you right, it's really a sweet spot of what you enjoy to do, what you enjoy doing, and what the viewers enjoy consuming.
Totally, yeah. I like to get the orders back and sift through the sets. You've probably watched some of the videos. I talk about the card and the set, things to look out for, and it's just enjoyable to film videos like that. So I'm just kind of stuck with what I know and what I've, you know, developed somewhat of a skill at.
Yeah, I think it's super educational too. If someone's just coming into the hobby, you're picking up the card, you're looking at the how PSA interpreted the flaws that you've identified, or SGC, and you're talking a little bit about how tough it is to get
Oh
a
yeah,
PSA 10 in a certain grade. I think those are the types of videos that someone just coming into the hobby can just sit down, put on a playlist. If you're walking around the house doing house chores or something, just absorb through osmosis all the knowledge that you're sending out.
yeah. I think people need to know how tough it is to get like a PSA 10 in a 1997 Bowman Adrian Beltre, as opposed to a 2017 Bowman paper card. It's like a thousand times harder. So when you get a 9 in that, you're doing really good. So there's just differences between sets that a lot of people don't know about, but that's something that I do focus on the channel.
Awesome. So I got one more question for you, and then we can call it a night and wrap up the video. What is your one piece of advice for someone that's just coming into the hobby to build up their PC or make a few bucks on the side?
The one piece of advice I would give somebody, okay. Now, although I do like to open hobby boxes, I would not open any product. Now, it is enjoyable. When I open a hobby box, I treat it as the same as like going out to a baseball game or something. Like, I mean, I know for the most part this is going to be a losing effort. Yeah, I know there's times where you'll hit a big card, but for the most part, when you open a hobby box, you're going to lose, but there is a value in the experience of opening the box. So I would not do that when you're first starting out, though. I would buy singles. I would stay with low-end cards under $20 of established players. Buy your Pujolses, buy your I want to say LeBron, but I don't think you can for under $20. So
I was going to say there's no.
Buy your guys from 2004. Buy your Fitzgerald Topps flagships. Buy stuff like that. It's cards that people are going to want for years and years to come. People coming into the hobby, when they hear about how good Larry Fitzgerald was, they're going to want a flagship Fitzgerald rookie. So keep it simple. Don't overthink it. Buy established players for lower prices. That's what I would do. And if you want a grade.
Awesome. Well, Nolan, this has been fantastic. Thank you for coming on the channel tonight. Let our viewers know where they can find you.
Yeah, man. You can find me on my channel and check out the store too.
So YouTube, eBay, Instagram, Twitter, you on those platforms as well?
Not on Twitter, but I'm on IG, YouTube, and eBay store. And I'm also developing cardboardfutures.com. So that's in the works right now. So we'll try to get that out soon.
Awesome. Can't wait to see it. Thanks for coming on the channel again, Nolan. And let us know in the comments below what you think about the state of the hobby right now, grading SGC versus PSA, collecting cards you love, and keeping it simple. Till next time, I'm Cardi-C, the baseball card collector. We'll catch you guys later.